How is everybody doing? And welcome back for another Strength Chat episode. Today is going to be a good one. It's the return of the man, the myth, the legend that is Jerome Scherrer. How are you doing?
That was too much, man. I'm all right, thanks. Yeah, I'm good.
I've been practicing that. I was like, got up this morning. I was like, this is the intro that I need to do. So obviously a returning guest. I know we've spoken quite a lot between episodes and all sorts, but
Yeah.
yeah, kind of. I think the first question is, how are you? What have you been up to? What's kind of been happening in your world recently?
Yeah, so a lot's happened since the last time we spoke. I went through the whole prescript education model. So I've pretty much done every single course that they offer, apart from programming. And then moved from Rick's gym to Bad Company for a year. I worked up at Bad Company with the Muay Thai fighters, although I didn't train them. The irony is I left and then I started training two of them. So Uh, so I had a year there, and that was kind of like a new gym, a new build, a new concept that they've built up there, and it is an amazing facility. And Richard Smith that owns it, what an absolute legend. He'd be a great person for you to have as a guest, I think, one day. Um, and then it just was one of those things where I wanted to spend more time with my missus, and she works in Graft House, so I thought I'll just move to Graft House, change my schedule a little bit, and then work that around. So I've been there for about 5 weeks, but sometimes it's difficult going from one environment to another environment, and you have to relearn what everything looks like, even the layout of the gym and how your workout flows, and managing other people and the other people around you. And I've not really ever worked in a gym that's that busy or has that many other trainers
Yeah.
doing their own things. So it's kind of just finding your own place in that environment and that ecosystem, really.
They've had a little bit of a, from what I saw, they've had a little bit of a revamp as well. So I think the layout isn't what I thought it would be because they've got like some new kit or like it's a little bit of a different layout, I think.
Yeah, they've completely changed the layout. I'd been there a couple of times when I did the stuff with Ross,
Yeah.
but aside from that, um, it's very much like they put all the kit in the middle for your bodybuilding general lifestyle clients, and then they've built a bigger track, which is great, and put the cardio next to the track. But it's just kind of working at that flow of how you run your programs and your schedule compared to others, because I really don't like just doing let's go do lat pull down, let's go do this exercise, let's go do that exercise. And there's nothing wrong with doing that. Like, I don't have a problem with that style of training people, but you're just trying to work out the management of it. It's like being on a new motorway and you don't really know where the exit is, so you're just trying to figure that out. And sometimes you just got to revel in that sort of new environment and be on the fly.
Yeah, and that'll come over time because I know only speaking from so since October, I've been working in a gym called Titan, and yeah, just in terms of how all that works, because there's basically like there's the main gym with like the squat racks and machines, and then there's like the main like outside gym area and class area where all the squat racks are, and then there's just a big shed
Yeah.
full of equipment. And honestly, like I'm still finding equipment that I didn't even know from there,
Yeah.
and just using and being able to like use the space because I found that I was like, oh, I'm going to set this up, but the squat racks, this might be a bit of a tangent, but the squat racks are really close to each other. So when people are squatting, it's
Yeah.
a little bit like the first couple of classes, they were like hitting each other, and I was like, oh, bloody hell, they're not going to be able to do that. But then there's like an engineering team, and they're just basically like they'd made some like temp squat racks, and I was like, all right, so the two Thai lads basically brought these out, and I was like, oh, sound, that's much better. But then you get used to stuff like that, and probably get I know for me, I've got a little bit more confident in terms of, all right, I can try this because like. Before I flew back over, I found some landmines, and I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
really?
that'll be cool to use in it," because I've never really used them in a class.
Yeah.
Um, I've used them for because sometimes I'll do PT down there, just because it's nice to train. It's just nice to train
Yeah,
outside. But we had a mixture of so the strength sessions are split push, pull, and legs Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And for the push session, I had a mixture of like dumbbell overhead press, but then we also did a landmine press. So for people that had really like struggled with overhead pressing, it was nice to see people gravitate to the landmine press and be like, this actually like feels much better on the press, which I've not had in a class format to be able to one have the space to be able to do that, but such variety of kit to be like, well, let's give this a go, which I thought were pretty cool.
yeah. I love like landmines, especially for class-based work that would work, or it's like a good funnel system, isn't it? Because it's an introduction to getting overhead. You can do it in various different styles. You can teach them a little bit of stability at the top and where you need to load, and it's a really good tool, I think.
Yeah,
And you can be
I'm
used in all degrees, really.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of landmines. That was one of the things the gym that I worked at in the UK. I said we could get a few more of these.
Yeah,
It was slightly different because that was kind of like small group training, but in a class format, it's quite good. And as well, like the thing that made me think about it was there's actually so much space. It's just like a big if they put walls on the side of it, it's just like a big warehouse. So nobody gets in, nobody gets um like stuck on top of each other.
yeah.
One thing that and we'll dive into the topics of it, but this is something that I'm sure we've maybe spoken about before or maybe touched on, but when we're talking about environments, and we'll go further down the rabbit hole of kind of like coaching, but um, I know you also went over to America, and when you're talking about kind of environment, learning, and experience of that. Just want to let everyone know kind of what that was. It wasn't just a holiday to America, by the way.
No, I did the combine block with prescript, and then we were at Yo Murphy compound in Tampa, and I saw Killian advertise for an internship role. So I applied for the internship role, and then they were like, "Are you sure you're going to come from Britain to Tampa? You're not getting paid. You have to fund it all yourself." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I'll turn up." And even into the last 24 hours, they were convinced that I wouldn't turn up. And then I text him saying I was here, and he was like, "You're actually here?" And I was like, "Yeah, mate, I'm coming." So that initial like phase was interesting because they forgot to send me a visa application letter, so the Americans thought I was going to get paid, so I got held in customs for 3 hours, ripped everything apart, and they couldn't understand why somebody would fly from Britain to Tampa to work for free in a gym to get educated. It was blowing their mind, and I was like, eh. Eventually, they let me go, and I went down to the compound, and I guess the reason to go there is because there's levels to this game and understanding, where you fit in that ecosystem, like I like to talk about, and being around those level of coaches and just getting to visually see what they do, understand their processes and how they work each day. I don't think you can pay for that level of education, because I'm not a monetary driven person, which my missus hates about me. But I do believe that opportunity and experience is bigger than money. And money will come back around and it'll always come around. But the opportunity to go to that environment where there's no ego, there's no bias, there's the most elite athletes in the world training in there, from NFL to Major League Baseball, lacrosse, volleyball, USA track and field. And you're involved in all of those working parts with those people. And they're grafting, like they're working from 5:30 in the morning till 5:30 at night, 6 days a week. Those trainers and coaches in there, there is no hours off, there is no time off. But just to be part of that it's really hard to sort of put it into words because I'm still trying to figure it out now with all the pieces. You know, it's so intense at that time, and you're exposed to so many things. You're still trying to break it down now, but I would advise anybody that's listening to this that wants to learn or be exposed to something is find out what it is that you're really passionate about and go and put yourself into that mixer with those people and see if you can survive.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I know, I think it was maybe kind of like maybe a similar time when I told you about Thailand and you'd mentioned about going over to America. Like,
Yeah.
it was a completely different environment. In Thailand, I can imagine it was a completely different environment in America as well. I suppose from there, from um, a trainer, coach's point of view, from you going in there, what was kind of like the biggest maybe differences or mindset or approach? Because just using myself as an example, um, the couple of at first I just dotted around a couple of gyms, and some gyms were just kind of like just wanted to look really good, have all the kit, but no weren't really bothered. And then you'd walk into like other gyms, and there was a really big emphasis on like coaching, performance, like technique, and a mindset of like they wanted to hold members, clients to like a certain standard and get that out. Obviously, maybe slightly different from your perspective because you mentioned that it's maybe from a sports performance point of view. But
Yeah.
what were kind of like the biggest differences or maybe like level of detail or knowledge? Because that's one thing that I've found like um, there's so I work with Thai, Australian, and Italian coaches, and I've learned off all three. Like it's completely different. And sometimes, and a Dutch guy that came over for a while, and sometimes their mindset, approach, how they think about things is just completely different to, I mean, I've only ever really worked in Leeds, the north of England. I know
Yeah.
like Newcastle and Manchester, but still the same area. And it's kind of like it's kind of the same thing, just in a Geordie accent or a Manchester accent. Whereas when it's someone from a completely different country, the just the mindset and how they see it is different. What did you kind of find with that in America?
I found that they're very, very, very passionate about what they do. They're very driven about accelerating that athlete's ability to be better at the given sport that they choose. So that when the athletes come in, it doesn't matter if they're 11-year-old kids at high school or they're a seasoned 6-year vet from the Miami Dolphins. Everybody gets treated the same, regardless of who they are and what they do when they walk in. There's no phones, there's no energy drinks. Everything is put back immaculate each time. It's very military. Um, and the understanding that when those players come in, those guys have already thought about what it is they're going to do on Friday, on Monday. So they're coming in and they're working out and they're doing the workouts, but it's already gradated to what there is on Friday because they might be in season, they might be off season, and depending on, it might be injury or return to play guys. So at one point, you might have 10 different clients working out, doing 10 different things. And then you have to be able to take a step back, watch what these guys are doing. And if you intervene, you intervene. But it's not the same as standing next to your client one to one and going, giving them an odd cue or watching them. These guys, they don't want that. They're able to work out problems in sets where general population will work it out in weeks.
Yeah.
And sometimes they might do it in reps. So you'll give them the exercises to do, and generally things are done in giant sets because they need them to work hard. They're too skilled to just do one set of something, but you might need to get them gradated into some kind of movement pattern and then into a plyo and then come back around again. But you have to have the ability to control that chaos. And that's what they're very good at. It's controlled chaos.
Yeah.
And
I'm
it's the
a I'm
deep.
a I'm a huge fan of that phrase because it's a little bit similar. Like part of my role before I left was like coach development, and it's kind of like from the outside looking in, it can look like what's going on, but there always has to be what I've taken from that is
Yeah.
they've got systems in their head, like they know what it is, but they can pick it out. Whereas if you're not being able to see that or understand that, that's when it's just like what's going on. It's a little bit similar to watching some of the so we have our head coach at Titan, he runs the Muay Thai sessions, and when I first started he was like, basically, I want you to do as many classes as you can, just get a feel for it, how things work, and see how the coaches basically run their sessions, which is
Yeah.
really cool because I learn much better by doing. And then I got an idea of like, right, how do they use the space? How to do that? Anyway, the Muay Thai session, honestly, I was like, what is going on? But he's called Dino. He's actually when you say about like military style, he runs his sessions like that. So he used to be in the parachute regiment.
Oh,
So like how he runs stuff, like he's quite laid back, but when you look at his sessions, you're like, oh yeah, actually that flows. And I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. And then he basically like um change the cue or change the approach, and then it was like, ah, right, okay. And then he made, I think the biggest thing, like what you've said there, is the members or the athletes knew what was going on, and then they can change, and then that way it gives you that like what you said, that control.
yeah. As I went through the prescript system, um, I really discovered that I can assimilate knowledge, but I have to continually do the same thing over and over. So I would listen to the same lecture for 7 days, 2 hours a day on the drive to work until I knew exactly what they'd said. And then I would apply small parts of that to my clients. Now, once you get to that point, and then you get to America and you're doing it live with professional athletes, and the risk is that you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to overtrain them. You know, some of them are children and they still have to go and perform in front of adults to get recruited. You have to really understand that, can you apply what you know? Do they need it at that time? And can you reverse engineer what's going on to make that work? I think that's the biggest thing I learned, because when you're in front of, say, 15 pro athletes, if you do not have any ability to command respect or tell them what to do, they will just F you off. They'll just walk away.
Yeah,
Lost the room then. And that's what I realized that I'm actually good at, is I have that very good trait of taking command and control of things and being confident in what I'm doing. Even if it's wrong, I'm just going to be confident,
yeah,
because one of them will go, hey, coach, why am I doing 6 reps? He did 12. And I'll be like, oh, because you're just stronger, mate. So I need you to do 6. And he'd be like, oh, that makes sense. But the reality is I made a mistake, but I'm not going to go, oh, I made a mistake, mate, because he's just not going to listen to you again. So you
yeah,
have to have that ability to be able to understand what you're doing and be at that time.
yeah.
There was every morning I would go to the field with Ricks. Ricks is an absolute legend. 929 performance on Instagram. What a guy, man. Honestly, I've never met anybody like Ricks in my life. He's from Chicago. He's like grafted his whole life. He worked from just being a gym floor PT, trying to support his family, to now training NFL athletes.
Wow.
No formal education at all. He's just grafted the hours. And I learned so much from that guy, spending hours and hours with him every day. But one day we're at the field and he's coaching his footballers. And he's like, Jez, can you just go back to the gym and just mop up and do the cleaning? And I was like, yeah, Sam, of course. So I went back to the gym. And then these 2 linebackers from Tampa Bay walked in, like 6'4", 330, 360 pound guys. and I'm just cleaning the gym, and they're like, "Yo," and I'm like, "Yeah, man," and like dab them up, and they're like, "Yeah, Yo said I should come over for a workout today. I'm feeling it," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sound yeah." No, Killian told me you were coming. I'll get the laptop. I went over to the laptop. I don't have access to the laptop. I don't even know what's on the fucking laptop, mate. I just opened it up and I was like looking at a blank screen. I was like, "Yeah, the workout's here, boys. We're on. We're on. We're doing upper." And they're like, "Yeah, sick upper. It's beach day." And I was like, "Sound." And then they're proper hyped. And that's where you got to think, if I was to give them serratus wall slides and what bandied Y rays, they're just going to walk out. So literally just got a big med ball. I said, "You're going to throw it at each other as hard as you can. And then we're going to go to the bench press. You're going to hold a maximum isometric at the top as hard, as much as you can. And then we're just going to bench, boys." And they were like, "Sick. I love this." So we just did that. And then we did loads of upper body pumpy stuff because they're going to the beach. But that's where that ability is to go. If I'd gone, "Oh, I need to phone Killian to make sure and do these things," they would have been like, "Mate, no chance." So I really learned that I'm good at that. And I think that's where it comes the difference from being able to work in the chaos or just completely break down. And you might have all the knowledge in the world and all the understanding, but if you can't apply it in the real world, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because that's the thing. Because I think that's a great story. By the way, I think that's really good. But I
Like,
also, yeah, I'm of the mind the guy's called Dino, and I've actually been lucky enough for the majority of people that I've worked with, um, kind of have thrown me in at the deep end. And I think, I mean, don't get me wrong, maybe there's some instances I can't think of them at the minute where that isn't always ideal, but it it you get a gauge of like what that person is going to be is going to be like, and the fact that I've literally got that picture in my head of you just looking at a blank screen, being like, yeah, it sound this like, but being able to do that and actually reading the situation, and being like, yeah, these lads aren't going to want to do the exercises that you mentioned there, like they're wanting to come in and feel as though they're doing something.
yeah. And Killian came back, and I was like, "Killian, mate, Silas and, Big Tim turned up, and I just trained them." And he was like, "Cool, bro.
Yeah,
I know you got me, sound." He
yeah,
didn't question it. He didn't even ask me what I did. He just presumed that I would have done what needed to be done, which was,
yeah. Yeah,
I, like,
that's really good.
I liked it.
Yeah. And with that, like you said there about, being able to apply it and applying that knowledge. And this is something where like you kind of said it there about confidence as well, being like, "Oh, why am I doing 6 reps and you're doing 12?" And I think sometimes, or it'd be good to hear your thoughts that people can kind of sometimes mask that they don't know a lot of things and just kind of like blag the way. And in some instances, like you've used an example there. I've done it before where I've just been like, "Ah, no, it's because of this. This is the reason for it." Everyone's been there, but does that have a kind of a certain? Do you think that has a certain shelf life, and people will get found out? And then the second part would be, when you're learning, when you're trying to have these experiences, at what point do you well, I want to try and word this in terms of like applying it and implementing it in your own coaching with clients and actually um seeing reward from that and being like, yes, this is, I know what I'm doing here. How long does that take? Or is it a case of, like, from your experience from America, is it a case of, right, when I'm back, I'm just gonna do it? When those two guys came in, I'm just gonna do it and see what the result is, if kind of both of those two make sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the first one is there's a difference between imitation and actually having specific knowledge. I think that happens a lot in this industry now. Other trainers watch other trainers and then they copy them without any understanding of the application and why they're doing that. They just think, "Oh, that looks fancy. I'm going to now do it." And then the client might ask them, "Why are we doing this exercise?" And they'll be like, "Well, it's because it's like the upper dorsally mechanics of the," and it's just some waffly toffly nonsense. And I think that's dangerous. And I think that's also doing a disservice to the client because they're paying you for a luxury service. So you should be looking to apply what it is that they need at those times. I think the instance where you have that footballer and we make mistakes all the time, like genuinely just made a mistake. But in that instance, if I'd said to him, "Oh, I made a mistake," he wouldn't have respected me and gone on with it. So I just made him do the 6 reps and said, "Because you're real strong, you need to do 6 reps." And that's the difference between applying that and lying or not understanding technicalities to just make yourself sound smart.
Yeah.
And I think the instance is that if you don't know, just go, "I don't know. I'm going to go ask somebody that's smarter." And I do that all the time. People ask me about injuries or things they're having going on with their body. And I'm like, "Do you know what? I've done all this, but I actually don't know. I'm going to ask somebody smarter and I'll get back to you." Or blood work or nutrition. I'm quite open about nutrition is not really something that I'm really strong at, even though I do it for clients. If I have nutrition questions about finer details of things, I will go and ask somebody else. And that's the whole purpose of, I think, this job, that they might come to me and say, "Hey mate, I'm having this problem with this athlete. How can we advance him here?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, that's cool. Let's do that." And I think that's important, to be able to acknowledge that we don't know everything.
Yeah.
And those coaches that I've been privileged to be around, they openly will say the same.
Yeah.
And you think that they know absolutely everything on this planet, and they will still say the human body is the most advanced organism in the world. We don't even know. And they will still question it or ask somebody else. And I think that comes down to the actual question in the very beginning. It comes down to ego and your own bias and having an ability to be more humble about things.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you get long-term success with people, because you're not selling them a false narrative.
Yeah, I think that's and that's part of the reason why I set up the podcast. I am a big believer in, if you don't know the answer, go and ask, go and
Yeah,
ask someone and keep learning. And as well, I know what you said there about nutrition, but there's levels to it. Do you know what I mean? I was actually speaking to a guy. Yes, when did I go for that walk? What day is it today? Monday, and he was actually about his friend, and he's taken on a client who struggles with I'm just going to say an eating disorder. I'm not 100% sure what it was,
yeah,
but that's kind of like, that's a different level compared to just kind of like, I want to lose a bit of fat, I want to gain some muscle, or I want more energy. Cool, eat this, this, and this. This will help with fat loss. This will help with that. That's, whatever level that is. Next one is like anything where it's a little bit deeper. Like I've done it before. I've referred to people and been like, look, and when a key thing that you said there was, it's like a luxury service. Being able to have a trainer, a coach, like it's something that is an extra expense compared to other things that people are paying for. So if you won't be able to do that, all right, let's bring somebody in. And it's kind of like, I always see it is, it's always a team effort. It's not kind of that thing of I've got all the knowledge. It's a
yeah,
case of, right, well, let's learn from this to have that, a little bit like, again, I don't know why I always use a car analogy, but it's kind of like a pit crew for F1. Like, you don't just have one engineer with a spanner. You have other people that are kind of like, right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
yeah. And like pit crews at F1, they're like the most elite of those people doing that very tiny specific job. It's very niche. And there's different kinds of mechanics at all levels, isn't there?
Yeah,
And I think that you need to understand that.
yeah,
There's all kinds of levels of training and coaching. And no matter where you fit into that ecosystem, there's always a up and a down.
yeah,
Nobody's at the top, nobody's elite. Nobody's a master trainer. I don't even know what that is. People call themselves that now. I don't even know what that is. I thought there was like a guy in that old ship with like in what Battle of Waterloo or something like that. Master trainer. I don't know. What are you a master of?
Yeah. Is that, do you think that's where, and actually this is one of the things I put down there, like when we talk about like understanding a topic, you know, there's people that have a really good level of knowledge. So
Yeah,
the or understanding of a certain topic. But even an example would be one of my clients, she is a doctor in her doctorate is in like town planning. So she goes to conferences and she speaks at the conference, but she also speaks to other people who have also got doctorates in town planning, but from different universities all over the country. Do you know what I mean? So she's asking people who are at her level, maybe a little bit more. But for me, when she says stuff, because she sent me, because basically in Phuket there's no pavements, and then she basically explained why there are no pavements, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. That was really, really good. I like obviously strength and fitness and that sort of stuff, but I also love random facts and learning random facts. And I was like, oh yeah, that's quite good. So a little bit like what you're saying, you know, the coaches that we kind of look up to and see what they'll then speak to other people. And that's where I kind of agree with that. There's no kind of like top or bottom. People will share that. It's just sharing information along that spectrum.
yeah.
And do you think it's a case of, you know, saying I'm a master coach, I'm a master trainer, I'm this? Do you think if people can say that they've got this thing of I've got 100% understanding of this topic, I've completed it. This is in terms of in terms of an advertisement as a coach, as opposed to being just like, look, my area is um, sports performance, strength training, whatever it is, but just being, well, actually, like, you know, I'm still developing it because what we did 3 months ago isn't necessarily going to be the same thing that we're going to do as you're progressing. If that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think it's a continual developmental process all the time. You know, going if you go back to like the thing you said at the beginning is that humility in America, those coaches, there's humility, there's no ego, and they're just sharing that knowledge with you if you're open to come and receive it, you know, and they just want you to be better. That's all they really want. They don't want anything more. But then you take one, pass it on. So you take your interpretation of that knowledge and then you coach a little bit of that into your systems and you pass that on to somebody else and then they pass it on, but it has to be done in your own style.
Yeah.
You know, you could, like you're saying there, you could have 10 mechanics and tell them to build a hot rod, but each one should be individual to that mechanic. And
Yeah.
that's what coaching and training is. It's being individual to your own interpretation of that knowledge at that time. And I also do agree with you where even the guys on the highest level, they don't necessarily understand, let's say, nutrition. They're going to talk to somebody who might be below them in the pecking order as seen in the world, but that ecosystem, they might talk to them about nutrition because they don't have a fully understanding about it.
Yeah.
But they could tell you verbatim about how to peak a powerlifting
Yeah.
uh, for a meet.
Yeah.
And like Stu, he's coached me for like 3 years, but I do his nutrition.
Yeah.
And like he essentially understands it, but he doesn't want to do it. But then he just has these things, and I tell him what to do on that.
Yeah.
He tells me what to do on the other stuff.
Yeah.
So we do talk to each other through these different filtering and layering systems.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's missing, you know, in I mean, I haven't really trained outside of Leeds apart from in Tampa. I
Yeah.
think that's what's missing in Leeds, in Yorkshire, mate.
Yeah.
There's nobody wants to talk, have a conversation. I mean, obviously we're doing that now,
Yeah.
but actually on the gym floor, everybody's too busy just doing their own thing. And nobody's interested in having a valued conversation about could we do this? Could it be done like that? What have you thought about this? I think that's lacking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's that. Yeah, and this might be a little bit of a tangent, but it's kind of one thing that you said before is they just want you to get better. Went over to them, they just want you to get better. And I literally had the another podcast that I did. It was kind of if we share that information, that everyone's standard goes up a little bit.
yeah,
So, like, if somebody's struggling with sports performance, powerlifting, strength training, whatever it is, and we help that person, that then is leveled up a little bit.
yeah,
The nutrition side of things, if everyone gets, because like this was actually yeah, just before I flew to Thailand, there was a member who was still doing, I think it was like the Fast 500 diet, whatever it's called, where you basically just eat like 500 calories a day. And I remember walking into the staff room, grabbing my breakfast, and I was like, my breakfast is 500 calories, because there was going to be like a gap between where I was eating. So I was
yeah,
like, I'm going to have this. And that's going to fill me up. And I was like, that is all your food in one day. So even if we talk about nutrition, that's going to level up because yeah, I'm not a big believer in just having people just starve. Um, so yeah, it's just like it's just increasing that level, and the more you have conversations, like we both know Ross, like having conversations when Ross was over and was able to train with him, which I thought was great. Um, Even now, and now I've known Ross a long time. You still pick up things. He picked up a couple of things, and the more conversations that you have, I just think that's how people learn. Yes, there's the formal courses and everything that you can do, but the more you're just having conversations, it's rare that you would have conversations that are all kind of like the technical jargon, but it'd be like, oh well, this is what I did. This is what I did with my clients. What have you thought? What have you thought about this?
yeah,
And I think that is that is beneficial. But that's why I asked about kind of like the understanding side of things, because it's a case of, whoa, I've got my knowledge, you kind of like suss it out for yourself. Whereas actually going full circle, if you like, speaking about environment, how you fit into that ecosystem and
yeah,
learning things, you'd be like, right, okay. So the environment is a lot better because we're bouncing ideas off each other. We have
yeah,
an understanding of like how to utilize that space, and then all of a sudden, members, athletes, clients come in, and then they feed into that as well. So then the standard, it's all leveling up, and that's how like I don't know whether it's because, especially playing team sports and that sort of stuff, and I'm a big believer in environment can play a big role in it. That's just kind of how, in my opinion, I believe everything is pushed forward a little bit. So yeah, I kind of agree with you there.
yeah. Totally agree with you. Environment is everything. Even if you take it to being in the Royal Marines,
Mm.
every man within that section has to be able to do each man's job, because if one of those men goes down, then that man has to take over. So that information has to be passed across the board for everybody to have the same amount of skill to win the firefight, to get home and have tea and biscuits and get medals,
Yeah,
right? Now, if we were just to apply that to personal training or coaching, everybody would move forward and they wouldn't feel so stuck at some things also. And that goes for me and for anybody really.
yeah,
There is always going to be points in this career path that you take when you're like, man, I don't actually know what to do there. Go and seek that knowledge, but you might not even know how to apply it. But there might be somebody else in that gym that's just recently qualified and you don't really know anything about them, and they actually have the answer.
yeah,
So if the troop sergeant talks to the young Marine who's just passed out the box and he has the answer, then utilize that knowledge and do the same when you're applying what it is you do on the gym floor with your clients.
yeah,
And that's how
definitely.
you survive
Yeah.
long
It,
term.
yeah. And I always go back to a quote that my mum always says. She always says, "Shy Bane's getting out." So if you don't ask, you don't get. Do you
Yeah,
know what I mean? And as well, the worst thing that can happen if you ask something, people will say no. An example is a couple of weeks ago, we basically had one coach who had to leave the country to sort out her visa. One coach was actually just on holiday, and then another coach was ill. So it was just me and the Italian coach, and I was like, right, let's split it up. And for whatever reason, he couldn't do the high rock session. Now, in terms of, I actually just shared it yesterday. Um, I've got a couple of people that have done high rocks in terms of clients. I've not done a high rocks. I've looked up on the rules. I'm not a high rock specialist,
Yeah,
but generally it was number one, making sure that she was confident because she's already fit and strong, and then it was just kind of making sure that because she was doing strength and like conditioning sessions, just making sure that it was in the right order, so she just wasn't tiring herself out.
yeah,
I ended up doing a high rock session, and in terms of like knowledge, I have like a small understanding of it. And literally at the start of the session, I was just like, I'm only covering for Dave. I'm not a high rock specialist. But I did say, because there was a couple of new people, I was like, if you do have any questions, I was like, I'll try and answer as best as I can. If not, let me know. I said I will message. I said he actually had to go to hospital. I was like, I'll message him.
yeah,
And I said, when he gets back to me, I said, if you're around camp, I'll send it. I'll send it back to you. They did actually ask the questions, and I like to think I am a man of my word. I sent the questions to Dave, and then because we've got like the outside gym on one side of the road, the main gym, and then like the hotel. And as I was walking down, I just saw him walking out, and I just got my phone up, and I was like, "Oh, actually, these were the questions like that." And they were like, "Oh, thanks a lot." And then on the Friday, so basically every Friday we do like a high rocks simulation. So then they went, and then they were like, "All right, that makes sense." And the question was, you actually have to have your hands in a certain position when you do the burpee broad jumps. I didn't know that. So when he asked me, I jokingly was just like, just do a burpee, jump as far forward as you can, you'll be sound. But obviously, like they had a high rocks in Bangkok coming up, so they wanted to make sure. They just wanted to double check.
yeah,
And that's the thing where like Dave was happy for me to cover it. He won't, because like, well, he wouldn't have been able to do it because he won't very well. But it
yeah,
wasn't a case of like, these are my sessions. I'm the high rock specialist. Nobody else can do it. But
yeah,
also, Dave was um, had no issues in letting me in giving me the answers to that, rather than being like, because he'd sent me the session of what to do, and it wasn't a case of like, yeah, setting me up for failure or anything. He tried to give me as much information as he could, and then even if you look at it from like a team point of view or a professional standard point of view, it
yeah,
goes to show that me and Dave were speaking to each other. And it's kind of like the only outcome was letting that couple know that we've given them the information that they need. Whereas, like what you're saying, if people aren't willing to share, I think that environment spills over, because it's as though you're kind of like battling against each other, as
yeah,
opposed to being like, oh yeah, like they do this, they do that, and sharing that information.
yeah. I like that Dave had a plan though, and he sent you the program.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what
You just
the
have a program, you're 10% better than everybody else in the industry already.
yeah, because we actually we what I have quite liked is we plan the classes out, and we change the order around. So, for example, the female coach that we've got, Georgie, she does like the glute builder. It's basically just a strength class, but obviously, if you call something specific,
Yeah.
and basically, we were doing a glute builder on a Wednesday, and then pull is on a Wednesday. So basically, people, if they came to both classes, were doing two lots of hinging in a day, and it was just like, well, why don't we just spread it out a little bit and change it around a little bit? Same as like the running with the high rocks, and then we all plan 4 weeks in advance, so it's like a month rotation, because we base it off. Some people can come over because it's like a fitness retreat. Some people can come over for a week. Majority of people, if they're over, are over here for a month. So we try and base it on a cycle of, if we
Yeah.
do it for 4 weeks, yes, if people come in for a week, they're kind of like dropping in at different points, but more than half are going to be here for a month. So you know it's just a numbers game. If you're having the majority of people, and then the next 4 weeks, then we change it around or cycle through anything from there. And just having that as a we've all got our own plans in terms of the sessions, but overall it's a little bit like on a Monday, um, they'll rotate with their exercises and then push. So then I'll swap the exercises around, which is just like again going back to it's just communication, and again tying all the things in together of understanding, applying things will always speed up, and you'll have much better experience, like what you were saying. Um, compared to if everyone just bottles up and don't talk to anything, the experience isn't as good, and you're not actually moving forward to getting better.
Yeah, it's not as good. Like communication is everything, isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Um,
language is everything.
yeah. And like what you were saying as you were speaking with people, having that confidence to be like, why are you doing 6 reps? Oh, because you're stronger. And how you would say that, how you put that
Yeah,
across.
yeah. And I think like what you realize in America is that we live very different worlds. Those guys, me, we're from very different worlds. And eventually you do have conversations where they ask you, they just all think you're from Edinburgh. And then in the end, mate, I'm just like, yeah, I'm from Edinburgh because I can't be bothered trying to explain Leeds anymore. The only ones that like Premier League football or soccer, they would understand what Leeds was. So I was just like, yeah, I'm from Edinburgh. And then they would ask about Scotland. And a few of them had been to Scotland because they played on the Ravens team and they'd done the game at Wembley and they got the train to Scotland so they could see Edinburgh. And
Okay, yeah.
you can have these conversations with these people, but that builds a little bit of rapport, then, doesn't it? And that communication gets better. And then it really depends on how Killian and Rich would write that programming for that week or that day and what it is that they do. But the conversations are overlapping now.
Yeah.
So they're asking you how your missus is or how the dogs are, and they're showing you pictures of their dogs. I mean, one of them bought a miniature dash hound and it was peeing in the house, and I explained to him how to stop that. And he was like, I don't know that. And I showed him my dash hounds, and then he was like, sick. And then ever since then, Wyatt has been messaging me like constantly every week to be dash hound.
Yeah,
And he plays for the Commanders, and I'm just like, how weird is this life? But
yeah. That's good though. I think it's stuff like that, and like I say, I've said before, the more conversations you have, you'll be surprised at what you can the
yeah,
the connections that you can make, and then it breaks down that barrier. Right, look, I want you to do this, this, and this. It's not as exciting as doing this, but it will
mm-hmm.
help you lead towards that.
Yeah,
Quite a lot of topics and tangents thrown around there, but yeah, a really, really good chat.
all right.
But the last question that I like to ask, from everything that we've spoken about there, and for everyone listening, what do you think would be your take-home points or words of wisdom?
I think always do it your own way. Be yourself, be true to yourself. This life is short, man, and you haven't got that much runs around the sun. So be true to yourself, do it your own way. Don't take anything for granted. And it sounds cheesy, but like, understand that every day you get up, you're blessed to be here. So that's what I would say. I've lived a different life, and like, I've got to my mid 40s now, and I see things totally differently.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll always say that to people: just do it your own way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to finish on, because we've spoken about quite a lot of different things there, but yeah, one thing that stuck in my mind from what you said is that people always want to replicate how that coach does it, how that person does it, whereas like, and this is what I've said to people as well. Like, I want you to be like Jerome, the coach. I want to be like Stephen. I'm the coach, and
Yeah,
then that's fine. But equally, like you can still chat about things. You can still chat about things. Put things into like your own words. How does that approach to it? And yeah, again, it's just leveling up that standard each time.
yeah.
Um,
I
So
heard that you're doing ABPU on Saturday, naked knees, no belt raw.
yeah, why not? I'll give that.
I'm
I'll get.
already. I'll see you Saturday. Wait,
Yeah, I'll give that. I'll say I actually looked. There's some powerlifting competitions in Thailand, which yeah, probably after the wedding, I'm a little bit like, yeah, I'd give that a go. But I still haven't like, yeah. I've not worn my belt. I actually thought about bringing my belt back, because I thought of adding anything more any more clothes on, like it's still hot. I'm just about right. But
do
yeah,
it
I'll
your
be
way. Do it your own way, man. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely.
Heck,
Um, so for everyone listening who would have any questions about what we've chatted about today, want to reach out to you, speak to you, see the content you put out there, where can people find you?
my Instagram is the muscle mechanics, the underscore muscle mechanics, and I work at Graft House Gym on Kirksall Road, and you can find me on their website, I believe, as well.
Awesome. 100%. Go check out the stuff that Jerome says because yeah, I find it really helpful and there's yeah, some really good nuggets of information that will help. So thanks a lot for taking the time to jump on. Thanks a lot to everyone listening, and I will catch you all at the next episode.